We are at EarthX 2026, and EarthX would be the place where you would meet a rebel with a rake. In this case, that rebel is our guest at this moment, Michelle Yahn. Michelle, welcome to EarthX.
It is
welcome
so fantastic to be here. Oh my God.
How did you become a rebel with a rake?
You know, I just felt like in this situation we're in, I just wanted to do something. I just found myself gardening and raking and guerrilla gardening and just thinking, what little things can we do? And I don't know, I started guerrilla gardening and then talking to other people about gardening and then a permaculture class and then just I kind of bumped into it actually, I would say. I heard that earlier, someone said. It's sort of just, it's happening. It's a kind of a many things coming together.
And it started quite a while ago, right?
Well, yes. I mean,
you have been around the block, as they say.
Yes, I feel like since I was a little kid, I guess I could say I've always been a rebel with the rake. I didn't always have a rake, though. It's whatever tool. That's more of a metaphor. Whatever tool you can get your hands on. One of my favorite tools is a rake, though.
Yeah. What were you rebelling about when you were in, say, middle school? What was the cause at the time?
Well, I mean, I feel like I was in middle school in the 70s, and so there was acid rain. That's when there was a river in Cleveland that caught on fire. And so that was the first time we're like, hey, this isn't, business as usual. There's a situation. So really, I think when I was in junior high school, I started hearing scientists talk about carbon, too much carbon in the atmosphere. Now, when we were in junior high school, that was the big hole in the ozone. And that's amazing, talking to young people today, that we were able to fix that problem.
Yes.
I mean, when I was a kid, we all thought that hole, it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And then through all of us working together, but also legislation, we solved that problem. It really, and so that's one of I would say the climate wins, that we identified a problem and we solved the problem. Mm-hmm. And it does feel like today we're in a bigger problem, but we have bigger brains working on it. I've met some of this weekend. I've met people that said we can absolutely get out of this situation.
Well, sure, and also in the 70s.
Well, sure.
But if you think about the environmental movement, if you want to even call it that, in the 1970s, there was not even a percent of the size today. I mean,
that's true.
So indeed, as you say, there are many more people involved.
Well, and then you look at Los Angeles, the air quality in the 70s to the air quality today. I mean, we had a picture at EarthX in its beautiful downtown LA, clear blue skies, mountains in the background, capped with snow. People didn't know what city that was because we think of LA as so dirty. It used to be in the 70s, there's stills, but it's way better than it was in the 70s for sure.
Yes. So, but it's important because we need progress. We need to see that we can solve the problem.
Well, because we're overwhelmed, I think. I feel so overwhelmed when I'm hearing all these statistics and we're at too many parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere. 350 was the number we were not supposed to pass, and we just blew right past that. So it is overwhelming. So coming to a place like this, it's like, and I'm meeting people and they're talking about solutions. And, my passion is just giving people hope and then connecting people and then helping with our wellness. And that, I think, our soil and building soil, and it's all connected.
Mm-hmm. So how can you're probably a very good example of somebody showing that an individual, can at least impact, something.
Well, we have our own little space, whether I was in an apartment in Hollywood or even, my boyfriend's apartment in Hollywood. It's like, where's the compost? Let's get everyone composting. So that was, if you were in my wedding, you got a book on how to backyard composting and a rain stick. So composting and music, that is what I'm so passionate about, because I feel like it brings people together. But composting is an easy thing.
Composting and music.
Composting and music, those are my two favorite that just...
Can you combine them?
Well, I think music brings people together and builds community, and compost is one of the easiest solutions. Food waste in the landfill, it's the methane is the worst. So it's the low-hanging fruit. We start composting, and luckily in California, food waste has to go into our compost buckets now. It's no more going to the landfill. So California, I hope we're setting the tone for this whole country. I was talking to someone in Dallas, and they're looking at composting programs. How are we doing it? And I'm like, I've gone to I call it the trash conference, but it's California Resource Recovery Association. And people from all over the world come to see how California is doing trash. And we are trying to, move things forward. So that has sort of been my passion, just in the environment and what are we throwing into the landfills, and then what can we do just by, on the positive is just by building soil and putting some natives in the ground, because we need to save the pollinators. That's like something we're all hearing about, and how much we love a bumblebee, we love that, but the native bees are the ground dwelling bees. So we need to leave the leaves. And that's why, so that we don't rip up, because we really need the bees now. It's like 70% of our food is from pollination. So
Yeah.
it's super important, and I feel like people are waking up to that. Like, okay, what can we do? So, Michelle, what can I do? How can I'm like, okay, where's your land? Even if you're a renter, even if it's your school, your church, your city hall, I would love to come and plant sunflowers, get a compost going, and then we pull the kids in to help do that. So it really is building community and building wellness.
So how do people get people more healthy from being
Well, we are
involved?
what we eat, right? And so, once we understand, like, wow, if the soil isn't healthy, the food coming out of it doesn't have any nutrient density. And there's a wonderful book, For the Love of Soil, and I love it. Nicole Masters, she's amazing. I heard her speak, and she really believes that it's not what's in the soil, it's what's not in the soil. It used to be millions of microbes in the soil.
Yes.
And she's going to the middle part of the country, taking farmers and saying, I can increase your yield in 1 year by building soil, by bringing in the powerful, friendly microbes. And so we're learning so much, and the things to do, and there's no shame, no blame, but we are in a situation, how can we get out of it? And it seems like building soil through compost and other techniques to really get those microbes, they call it quorum sensing. When you have enough of them, she says it turns on the soil. And I don't know all the science behind it. I am not a scientist. I'm a citizen expert because I've been doing it for my adult life. And I just know that when I build hugels or compost piles, I go back and it is teeming with life. In a garden I started, guerrilla gardening, I couldn't get my shovel in there. The compacted soil was so dense, it was so compacted, there wasn't a bug, there was no life in there. It wasn't soil, it was dirt. And a lot of people don't even know the difference between soil and dirt. And healthy soil, as you know, holds 50% water. So if you have healthy soil, it's like a sponge. So then it rains, you got soil there. But like one of our episodes we pulled up a lawn, and the lawn is so great. Well, not really, because the roots are this big. And we pull up that lawn, it is so compacted, there was no life there. It was dirt under that lawn. And so then this family put in a native yarrow ground cover. It's very fast growing, one small plant. It gets like this. And so we just put 100 in the yard, and you can mow it. So it's a lawn alternative. It uses a fraction of the water. And so in California, they are paying you to rip up your grass, which is I feel like, and as California, a lot of these Western states, if you want grass, you should live in Connecticut. It's just everywhere. But I would say even in Connecticut, what are your native grasses, right? And be beneficial. Because when I was growing up, we all had clover in our lawns, and that's actually a beneficial, clover is beneficial, but then to kill the dandelion, the weed companies could only kill the dandelion by killing the white clover. So they labeled white clover as a weed. Because when anyone who grew up in America, white clover was in every lawn, and now you don't see it because we thought, that's a weed, get rid of it, and we're spraying. So I'm for no spray. We don't need to put chemicals on the grass.
So when you wake up in the morning,
yes,
first thing you're doing is composting.
Well, it's not always compost. I'm building compost. Because there's many different types of composting, and I'm doing these hugels, which you're making these piles. So every morning I get up, run to the beach. Maybe I'm doing some guerrilla gardening on the way to the beach. I have a few spots. So I pick up trash, pull weeds, and then I have an alley, an empty lot, and it's ever expanding. And the city does know it's me. There's no secret to who's doing the guerrilla gardening here because I'm bold in the way that I'm doing it. These piles are big
You are
that I
bold.
create.
Why would anyone think that is? Tell me more about that.
When we moved, I love this shape. I love the heart, right? I love this shape. I feel like it's a powerful, and if we all really think about what's in our heart, in our DNA, we are connected. And we care about each other. And I think the news would have us think that we don't care about each other. And so I feel really moved to let's come together, And so I am so passionate about community and gardening, composting, music, and what can we do? And there are so many solutions.
So you're in Santa Cruz,
Yes.
and you're doing your next street project. and there's this woman in a pretty red dress on a Tuesday morning, whatever, doing something there. What do people do? They see you, and what do they
most
say?
people are so grateful because this alley that I converted was an eyesore. It was full of needles and trash and personal hygiene items, and I just did 50 feet a year for over a decade until I did the whole thing. Right, I would say this: you don't have to do this huge project. You just start a little bit. Mm-hmm. Even from my own house, I diverted all the rainwater from the roof. That was not my intention when I started. I was just going to do one little section. I dug one little. It's called a basin. It's a hole, and you fill it instead of with cement chips. I use mulch, so it's a living system. So then I have all that white, beautiful mycelium in there. So now when it rains, now we did 4 infiltration basins. I moved 13 cubic yards of compacted clay from my tiny yard in Santa Cruz and filled it with wood chips. Now when it rains, and when it's raining there right now in Santa Cruz, we have these rain events, atmospheric rivers now. We have so much rain in California. My rain is staying on the lot that I am stewarding. This is an amazing thing. And my neighbor's like, Michelle, what's going on over there? I'm like, look at this. And it's amazing how much water in California hits our roof, goes down,
straight into
and
the
it's
ocean.
Been engineered so well. I heard in LA, it can get to the ocean in 7 minutes. That's how fast the water moves from downtown LA to the Santa Monica Bay. And so we got to slow it, sink it, save it. And now they learn too, it spreads. So when you sink it here, it actually goes sideways. And so my yard is so full of life. And now this alley in the middle of August, there hasn't been rain for months. There is still life because of all these piles and all these composts. And a hugelkultur is just it's a German term. And it's just where you use logs and hardwood, and as they dry out, they become like a sponge. And so now you have this spongy pile that is moist and wet for months after the rain, and life needs darkness and moisture to thrive. It can't be in a dry situation.
So what would the world look like if there would be a tribe of Michelle Yahns?
Well, I think that sustainability would be key, and we would have permaculture food forest everywhere, and our houses would be made out of sustainable cob or hemp that doesn't burn. And you think about the LA fires, one house has a cob house surrounded by laundry to landscape water that keeps almost a moat around your house. One house does it, another, 10 houses, 500 houses, the next fire would roll right over that. It would be a protection of water. And you think of a tree, it's 50% water, right? It's its own water system. And so more trees. And unfortunately, Cal Fire is saying we want to zero-scape everything. And so the permaculture philosophy is a little bit different that's one way to protect your house, but the soil around your house is so dry. And so maybe a different way is, like I said, let's make a moat around your house. Okay, fine, 10 feet out. But I would say, too, what's with the wooden fences coming right up to your house? You're saying, take all the trees down. Well, how about that wooden fence? So there is a lot of misinformation, and it was tragic what happened in Los Angeles. I happened to be down there on January last year when that happened, and I was in Studio City, and we had fires in Studio City that night, too. So it was, luckily I got out the next morning before all the freeways shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, being who you are and having done what you've done, what do you say to the people who watch this, watching your story at the moment? What have you learned? What is the message?
Well, that we can absolutely get out of this situation. We have actually had the science for decades. So we need storytellers and artists and songwriters and poets. Please, let's all come together and change and tell this new story, right? That there is enough. There is such an abundance in nature. You think of the abundance of one fruit tree and how much fruit it produces. And nature is so smart that a lot of that fruit then is going to produce more trees, right? And so biomimicry, mimicking nature, is this amazing field that I'm learning about. And so there's just all these, looking towards nature to be our teacher. What can we do? And then what if we get it right, friends? What if, we can get out of this? And I think that a lot of the environmentalists, from Jane Goodall to Jane Fonda to Sylvia Earle, they're all saying we cannot lose hope. If we have apathy, who cares? It's all over. We're going to hell in a handbasket. No, that is not true. That is not true. And I almost feel like I mean, Yvon Chouinard said this in his book, Let Your People Go Surfing. Fall in love with the river, then you want to save the river. So we've got to get young people out. Everybody, you've got to go out and find something you want to save. A meadow, a mountain, a stream, the ocean, something. And then you care deeply about it. And we are so connected. I feel like the ocean, it's my friend. I want to take care. And so I see this trash, and I used to be like, oh, the trash. And now I'm like, grateful my eyes work, that I can see it from far away. Grateful that my knees work. I've got a strong squat, and I'm strong enough that at my wonderful age, I am still capable. And so I feel like for every last breath, I want to help turn the situation around. I am here to help. I just want to be a worker bee.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.